Go ahead and get started here. Thanks everybody for making time to join this November meeting of the Data and Transparency Panel. I'm Josh McGee, the State Chief Data Officer. I think I know many of you, but haven't had a chance to meet everyone in person given the COVID crisis that's unfolding still. So you all saw the agenda. We've got a relatively light agenda here and look forward to a robust discussion. It's an exciting time for data use in the state of Arkansas. I think that one of the things that I'd like to stress at the outset is we're moving as a state from planning, trying to figure out what we want to do, and moving into execution, actually doing things that will help the state make better decisions using data. We're going to highlight a few of our priorities that we're currently working on in our agenda today. But I want to leave you guys here at the outset with the impression that this is a very exciting time, and we're going to more and more be reaching out to you and looking for projects that allow us to use data to enhance decision making. Just to give you a quick overview of where we're going with the CDO's office, in my view, in the CEO's office's view, data-driven decision making, using data to inform decision requires three things. It requires a high-functioning state longitudinal data system that has a lot of the state's key administrative data sets in it and has those things integrated and ready for use. Two, it requires analytic capacity to actually do something with those data. Data in and of themselves don't actually help decision making. We actually have to do something with it. I think that is where we're very focused right now. And then three, kind of at the out stages, once you have a high functioning SLDS and you have some analytic capacity, you also need a process to work with state agencies to identify priorities and work to continuously improve against those priorities over time. We're trying to build all three of those for the state of Arkansas. We've made a lot of progress on the high functioning SLDS, and now we're transitioning to building that analytic capacity and a process for identifying those high priority areas and executing projects against them. So it's a very exciting time. On the analytic capacity, long term, I expect us to build a small internal analytics team that can serve state agencies. I also hope that we can help build analytics capacity out in the agencies themselves and develop that capacity. But I also hope that we can leverage existing subject matter expertise in the university system to really enhance our ability to execute on more projects and learn faster and hopefully improve people's lives. So with that set up, we've got a few agenda items that we're going to cover. Robert Magoo is going to provide us with an update on our progress around building a state longitudinal data system and where our current priorities are. Adida Karkera is going to give us an update on data governance, all of our efforts around data governance. And then Senator English is going to provide an update on the efforts of her subcommittee focused on data sharing and data-driven decision making. So with that, Robert, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, good morning. I wanted to give a brief update on the progress on the statewide longitudinal data system. In 2019, Act 936 added to the DTP responsibilities provisioning of a statewide longitudinal data system. We've pretty much been in proof of concept mode at the most of fiscal year 2020. We've been working under a proof of concept data sharing agreement, primarily between the Division of Workforce Services and the Department of Education Division of Higher Education. The initial focus was on studying workforce outcomes for post-secondary completers. To facilitate that from the infrastructure level, we've built a proof of concept statewide longitudinal system as a data warehouse, similar to most SLDS systems around the country. And we've explored different approaches to delivering SLDS capabilities through primarily four main data products. So we started with a self-service education through workforce dashboard to give comprehensive labor force and labor market information at the state and county level. We developed a proof of concept supply demand gap analysis comparing post-secondary occupational demand with projections of post-secondary completers to really understand where our gaps are, and that's being used to support the higher education strategic planning process. We produced a proof of concept enhanced economic security report, very similar to the report that's distributed annually now in PDF format, but this is through a self-service business intelligence platform, so we can easily make changes. Once it was developed, within about 30 minutes, we were able to take it down to the industry level or the county level and do different things like that. It was to kind of show that through a self-service approach, we can add a lot more versatility to let agency staff continue to ask a series of different questions. And we started looking at K through 12 enrollment projections using grade progression ratios, basically to kind of understand the impact of what's called the enrollment cliff coming up around 2025 due to kind of decreasing birth rates after 2007. As we're going into fiscal year 2021, we're looking to move those proof of concept data sharing agreements into standard data sharing agreements. Those are well along the way and expanding to additional departments and divisions, including labor and licensing, Office of Skills Development, elementary and secondary education, corrections, and others. We think we might be getting some federal grant funding to fund the SLDS for the next couple of years. We're looking to shift the proof of concept SLDS data warehouse to a production SLDS data hub from an infrastructure standpoint. And we're looking to productionalize the data products I mentioned at a proof of concept phase and adding a new data product for studying reskilling and reemployment trajectories related to the impacts from the pandemic. In addition to that, we're doing some collaborations, and the most notable probably being with the College Initiative, who operates sort of a multi-state clearinghouse for SLDS information. Several of our regional member states are in it already, including Tennessee and Missouri on the borders. Texas and Oklahoma are looking at it as well. So that gives us a few advantages. One, it helps us to work with other states on having a shared database schema and shared taxonomies and ways to represent the data. So we've got a common language. It gives us the ability to share data in a multi-state way, so we can kind of understand the impacts of our completers who might be working across the river in Memphis or in other states. And it gives us opportunities for code sharing. One of the notable examples right after COVID started was Illinois very quickly developed a weekly UI claims dashboard to really understand the impacts and kind of study the reemployment trajectories. Indiana was able to, because they run the same data model, replicate that and get it up and running in about 2 hours. And since then, Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Missouri have all replicated that. So by us kind of getting on that same data model and getting into that system, we can share knowledge, we can share code, and we can get a much more comprehensive view of education workforce pipelines beyond our state borders.
Thanks, Robert. Really appreciate that update. As you can tell from Robert's update, it's an exciting time in that we have moved from proof of concept data products and kind of a few projects here and there to having a pretty robust pipeline of projects coming up. Robert's going to be very busy over the coming months working on all this. I'm also very excited about the collaboration with other state partners through the College Initiative and otherwise to kind of address common problems and share data-driven solutions across state. I'll pause here and see if anybody has questions about our SLDS update.
Hey, Robert, this is Jonathan. I've got a question. In your mind, as you're putting together all of these data sharing agreements and things like that, that we're having to create concept data sharing agreements, what seems to be the biggest issues that you're coming across? Are there common issues that we can look at across multiple agencies to start working on creating a a comprehensive data sharing agreement?
I actually believe Audit is about to address that in the next.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, that's great.
Predictive question. Sorry.
That's a great setup. I really appreciate the setup there, Jonathan. So obviously, right now, each department handles their own data sharing agreements. It's a little bit of a messy process. There's no standard process across departments. Departments handle it differently, have their own provisions. And so we're working with the governance committee to standardize all that and come up with a framework that hopefully will work for the entire state. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Adita to give us an update from the Data Governance Committee.
Thank you, Josh. Good morning, members of the committee and members of the panel and others who are on the webinar just now. Thank you, Jonathan, for setting up the stage really nicely for me to segue into the next topic.
I'm here for you guys.
So as we know, I don't think I need to repeat any more on why we need a standardized data sharing agreement. We know that our current process is ad hoc, inefficient, and often very time consuming. Data sharing agreements are foundational for any data sharing or data exchange that happens between departments. So what the State Data Governance Steering Committee has done, working in collaboration with the Cybersecurity Office and the Privacy Officer, we have come up with an enterprise data sharing agreement that standardizes and provides consistent data governance rules to facilitate more efficient data sharing. So a framework has been created which defines security, privacy, and governance requirements for standard state data sharing needs. And together with that, there is an addendum added, which is for scope of information exchange or scope of data exchange, which would be filled by departments on an as-needed basis. Our hope is to go ahead and get a formal approval by the DTP and by the participating members, so we can get those signatories from different departments agreed upon to this proposal, and hopefully get this standardized DSA implemented very soon. Like I said, the governance committee has already looked at it. They provided feedback, the cybersecurity has provided feedback, and the privacy officer. So I think we're moving fast on this. I think it's going to add a lot of efficiency in our current projects. So my hope is that we can get moving pretty fast on this. And I'm going to pause there just a second before I move on to my next update in case there are any questions or comments in that regard.
So, when are you thinking that this is? I mean, is this a 2021 thing that could happen, or when are you thinking that this will be in place and created?
Yeah, I think, Jonathan, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a question that probably the DTP needs to address together. The next step should be that each representing member goes back to their department, reviews this together, and comes back with very quick feedback on any suggested changes in the verbiage of the DSA. My hope is that we get it done before 2021, but I also know that with Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays in between, that might be a bit of a stretch, but let's shoot for before the holidays, if possible at all. So I welcome any input regarding the timeline.
Yeah, and just to follow on that, I mean, even if we can just get a first round of feedback from the various departments before the first of the year, that would be significant progress, and we would push very strongly to get this done early in the new year at the latest.
How does that sound to other members of the panel? Is that doable to get at least some basic feedback in the next couple of weeks?
Yes.
Thank you, Mark.
On the commerce side, I guess, I don't know, maybe you need it just from workforce services rather than commerce as a whole, but have you got it from commerce yet?
So Nathan, we are looking at it cabinet level. So it would be from commerce versus workforce services for the high level data sharing agreement. But no, we haven't gone out and asked for any input at that high level yet. We've been working with the agency data officers for each member. All right, with that said, then I will move on to my next topic of update. Uh, as we were just talking about our DTP membership and our agency data officers, we have recognized that our DTP membership is not equally balanced across state departments. And I think there is value to expanding the DTP to include all of our state departments. Today, the DTP membership, which is created by law, does not include all of the 15 departments. There are 6 departments specifically that are not represented in the DTP, and we would really hope that we can expand our membership to include all of them. At the same time, we would like to have these agency data officers created across different state departments as well, because I think the agency data officers have played a critical role in continuing to help us create data policies as well as deploy and implement those policies statewide. So hopefully the DTP membership can be expanded to include all of the 15 state departments adequately, and we can also have data officers identified across all of them. We did present this update in our recent data sharing ALC subcommittee meeting, and we're hoping that we will continue to work with the subcommittee on hopefully changing the required legislation to make that happen. And I'm pausing just a second to see if there are any comments or head shakes or nods that I see on Zoom here. Okay, I'll move on to the next topic. We know the next topic is Citizens Data Portal. We have so far been talking about data sharing and data exchange between our different departments. While that is critical for better outcomes of our government data, there is also a need for providing citizens with greater access to state government data, both for transparency and accountability. Now, we know that Arkansas already has a transparency website, which has some financial information on it. We also know that there are several agencies and departments that host their own websites with their department or their agency's data on it. But what is lacking, and this has been deeply highlighted by COVID-19, is that there's not a one-stop data portal that would have all of this information together on one landing page for citizens, legislators, policymakers, or even executive leadership. So what we are proposing is having a one-stop citizen data portal that would bring together data sets and important data elements from different departments together. This is also a next organic step after our statewide data asset inventory. So in our first step, we created the data asset inventory from different departments. We have that today. We have already identified what is sensitive data and not sensitive data, what is already open and what is not open. So it just makes sense now to move on and start getting putting more time into creating a citizens data portal. Several other states have done this already. We have been collaborating with other states to see what has worked well for them and what hasn't. And again, especially in COVID-19 times, we're trying to focus on what would be useful to address our current, whether it's FOIA information or whether it's citizen information that is needed during COVID-19. We've looked at states like New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Oregon, and to see what has worked well in those states and how we can absorb best practices from them. Right now, we have evaluated internally a couple options on how this citizens data portal can be created and how it's being utilized in other states. I welcome any input or any suggestions that might be from any agency data officers or any of the other departments on what data should go on it or any other ideas on it.
Hey, Anita, when you talk to other states, what are their methodologies as far as the data that they have? Is their data still distributed among several agencies, or do they have data consolidation in place already? How is that working for those states?
Mark, it's all over the place. Some of them have it all together, some of them don't. But specifically for their open data portal, a lot of them might be utilizing data which is already available on an agency's website. So it might be today a matter of just embedding a URL, which is pointing to another agency. It doesn't, all of this data doesn't need to move anywhere. So it's a mix. You know, like today, we know education has a very robust K through 12 information system available, right, with My School Info. So as a first step, maybe we could just embed a link to point towards My School Info. If there is information on childcare centers already available today, some states are just pointing a link to that on their citizen portal. Now, the inventory that we have created and other states have also created, most of all other states have already put it out on their open data portal, because that's nothing sensitive. That's just a listing of the inventory. That is typically the first thing most states go out and publish. And I think Arkansas is very well positioned to go ahead and move from our internal data asset inventory system to a more public citizen facing open data portal.
Thank you.
Adida, this is Ralph Hudson. Couple things. One, I just want to commend you. I've watched over the last several years, you sort of move us, specifically as it relates to this citizen data portal, move us from concept and then slowly move through the process, gathering the information, pulling it all together. And I just want to commend you for your leadership and your vision on that. But the second thing that I want to bring out is that we have been talking about this for a long time, and I'm actually really excited about the potential that we're this close to really seeing this happen. So ultimately, in terms of a citizen accessible portal, meaning actually active and being used, any idea? I mean, are we talking maybe a little closer to Jonathan's question? Are we talking into 2021 before we're actually, maybe beta testing this thing?
Ralph, first, thank you very much for your kind comments. And it's truly a teamwork. It's really everybody on this call that's done that work. It's totally teamwork across the state that has gotten us to where we are today. So thank you for your comments. As far as the citizen portal, we are actually testing that right now. I have looking to see if Austin is on the call. Austin has provided me a couple data sets from health that I'm playing with just now, trying to see how some of the dashboards they are manually creating, if we could create that through a test software that I'm using just now. How quickly will we be able to make this public? Truly depends how quickly the agencies are willing to contribute their data sets to the system. And of course, getting the funding for deploying that system. Based on our analysis that we did on what states are using what technology, it seems that more than 80% are using one particular platform, which is what we are leaning towards going forward with our final deployment as well. But the data sets need to come with guidance from the agencies themselves. And so I'm going to be reaching out to different departments to see what is most critical for them to put out there. How can we provide you cost savings, whether it's through FOIA requests that you're having to deal with today, or any kind of repetitive information that you're having to provide to outsiders. Let's go ahead and put it out on the citizens portal so you don't have to spend that time and you don't have that extra cost to provide that information again and again to them.
Yeah, and at our agency, as you well know, that's one of the things that we've been hoping and dreaming for a long time, is that place where particularly the FOIA requests can be tapped, and we just basically refer them straight to that, and they can go do whatever they need to do and get whatever they need to get, and in some cases maybe more than is even available otherwise, just because they're moving around in the information that they go, aha, you know what, I might need that. Anyway, again, thank you, Adida. And I know it's a team effort. Everybody on the call, we've been in these meetings, but it also takes somebody who keeps pointing us and who keeps talking about those things. And largely that's something you've been able to accomplish. And I think you've done a great job. Thank you, Josh, for letting me ask that question.
Thank you.
Adita, one more point on this. So Adita and team have also done a 50 state review. So she referenced, 80% of states are using one platform. We've done a 50 state review where we looked at various elements of these systems. And in our recent legislative hearing highlighted a few states that we thought were doing it well. We'll probably be sharing out to the DTP that 50 state review and also highlight some specific state sites that we think are doing it well. We'd like to get this group. It's great, Ralph, that you're excited about this. We hope that everybody's excited about it, but we also want to show the potential of the idea. And for those that are interested, allow them to poke around and get some ideas for how they might utilize this system to not only save money, but even go further than that, because their states are doing some really cool stuff on these sites, and we're pretty excited about it too.
And thank you, Josh, for that comment. I know I have Austin who unmuted himself. I don't know if he had any comments, and I see Nathan. I think you may have a comment.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to just kind of expand upon it a little bit. I mean, we did provide Additive with a subset of the COVID registry, and the ability to be able to share data between different agencies through this emergency declaration, has been extremely beneficial to us. And it would be nice to have something like this just kind of withstanding throughout, the duration, even, beyond the pandemic, and I really love the idea of having, just kind of this agency universal data sharing agreement between different agencies. I think it'll make life a lot easier and will greatly benefit Arkansans.
Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, for my part, as I'm thinking about a citizen portal, I think realistically, some citizens are going to use it much more ambitiously than others will. It's very uneven. And, if you think about an academic researcher, that doesn't seem like your typical case of a citizen, but some academic researchers may be working with civil society groups to try to help advocate policy. So they actually may typify that. I think more generally, an academic researcher might be asking some of the same questions that interested citizens would, but in a more sophisticated way. So in some ways, reaching out to the academic community and saying, what are you guys interested in? You have a publication motive, you have, what format would you like to see it in? What would you like to find out? And sometimes the academics also could write things that would help the citizens to know what to look for. So if there's sort of an upfront cost to figuring, okay, what's in this data set? What can we learn from it? Then the academics could sometimes sort of spearhead the way. So I mean, I would link a citizen portal to outreach to academia and to civil society groups and saying, what do you want to know?
Yep.
And just saving the agency's cost, okay, that's one thing, but sometimes there might be things that the public would want to know that they never ask because it's too difficult to get the answer, and that suits the agency just fine. Yeah. But that's not necessarily in the public interest. And so if you can also sort of gin up some of that public pressure to find out what people want to know, so let the academics look at it from a data point of view, try to figure out what they want to see, and then try to get civil society groups to figure out what they care about, get those voices together, and then maybe that can generate the kind of pressure on the agencies, that might be a little bit annoying for the agencies, but maybe in the broader public interest, to get more transparency in government overall. And the transparency, I remember I spoke to the sort of whoever was managing that a couple of years back, and they said, a vast majority of requests are just about how much do people make. Well, that's fine. It makes sense that my salary should be online, and that should be possible to look that up if I'm working for a state government paycheck. But I think that's also, there's a lot more to how state government works and how it could be improved than just how much that people are getting paid.
Absolutely.
And so that's, it may be indicative of how the way citizens use this data is not likely to be very creative unless you sort of actively reach out to academics and civil society groups and figure out how to empower them to really see what's going on, and then kind of pioneer things that then maybe citizens and civil society groups and legislators and so forth can follow up on. So that's my sort of general remarks, and then my specific remark, you asked for suggestions about what we'd like to be able to have a more efficient process on. For me, it's higher ed workforce analyses, and if I could pull ESR data that's more recent, I've been writing a whole bunch of them lately that's based on 2016 and 2017 graduates. Can we get it more recent than that? That's a while back already. I can imagine institutions sometimes might not feel super interested in how graduates from that long ago did if they're in an area that seems to be changing fast. Can we do it quick? Can we turn it around faster? So, and can we enrich it? Can we say something about what industries they're working in, for example? Sometimes that's extremely relevant. So how much more can we add to that kind of ESR? How frequently can we update it? I mean, I'm still using stuff that was sent to me by Greg Holland way back in the day. So I'm sure there's more updated stuff, but I don't have as,
Sure.
this portal might be where I pull that data from instead of stuff that I have on file.
Yeah, so I think we'll have to come up with a balance on what we want to put on this portal. Of course, when we're talking about all of this education data, most of the concerns are around privacy and what kind of information we'll be putting on there. So I think we'll have to approach this carefully and be sure that we are still compliant, be sure, considering all of our security and privacy practices. Again, there is no end to what all we can put on this portal, but I think we're just trying to start off with what is the highest value for our citizens and for the state as first steps. And once the infrastructure is set up and we've shown some sort of a prototype and some value, then we can continue to enhance and scale that out to anything and everything that may be needed. One more thing that you mentioned, what could be valuable to the citizens, what other states have done is they have added a suggestion box on their open data portals to say, what data set would you like to see? And I have heard tremendous feedback from on that suggestion box from several data officers across the nation, because the feedback from the citizens directly coming into the suggestion box has helped them kind of guide what their phase 2, phase 3 plans for the open data portal might be.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Corey.
I'm extremely excited about this and that we're moving towards this citizen portal. I've been advocating for something like this for a decade, I feel like, in Arkansas. I'm probably sure I know the company you're speaking of that has 80% of the country, and they do it really well. And access to data to me is a huge thing. Nathan, to your point about the citizens, they will drive what this becomes, because the economic impact that they can create and the ideas that they will have that we can't even fathom at this point is going to be, it's going to be exciting to watch and to see that happen. So if y'all need anything from us at Data Scout, we do this on the county level with what needs to happen in that atmosphere. Feel free to tap into my team and we'll assist where we can.
Thank you for that input, Corey. And you're absolutely right. I think I'm even thinking that maybe we need to create a smaller subcommittee or a work group to kind of get people together on what we want to put in the citizen portal in its first phase.
Yeah, and I would suggest bringing civil society groups and academic researchers into that group.
Excellent point.
Yeah, Nathan, I want to speak to your point about engaging members of academia, into this. I think it's very valid. And I know with the Department of Health and I believe Department of Education, I mean, there are online data request portals in which, members of academia can tap into and request, particular data sets. Some of the information, we can't display publicly because, they're wanting individual patient level or record level data, and it requires an extensive review process before we can release that information to them. But I mean, I do think, though, engaging those two communities would be extremely beneficial. And I think it'd be even more so beneficial to have other state agencies to have, a data request portal or something, so that, researchers can go on and request maybe record level data sets, something that may not be available or publicly available on on the website, but there is a process in place in which they can request that information. So
I think that's a great idea, but I would add to it that frequently the nature of data requests is very nuanced and subtle. And so if you're going to put it in a form, it's very hard to give them all the background information they would know to formulate the request correctly. And if there's anything subtle about the request, that's often likely to get lost along the way. So that's why I think having actual conversation, something like this, where you have a lot of people, everybody can speak anything they want to, and it's more freewheeling, that's very important as a supplement to some sort of a formal data portal.
No, I certainly agree.
Well, excellent discussion, and thank you for that input. I'm looking around the Zoom room to see if I see anybody else unmuting or wanting to comment.
Hi, Aditya. This is Arijit from Department of Education.
Hi, Arjit.
I was just trying to highlight, one of the facts that you just pointed. It could be portals like MySchoolInfo, where you have a lot of information already, and then you hyperlink the information. So we're already hyperlinking, labor market information, as well as the community census data on all districts page on MySchoolInfo. So that's one thing that we've already started doing from last year. So that's an extension of what you were mentioning a couple of minutes back.
Yes, absolutely. And again, we're trying to add efficiencies, not create any more inefficiencies. So I think let's tap on what is already available as our first step.
Right.
If a citizen can go to this page and doesn't have to go through 10 different pages or 10 different searches to get to the information they need, I think that's success already. And that does not mean that we need to get the raw data sets. It could just mean that we are embedding and redirecting to the existing websites today.
Right. And MySchoolInfo has a sister portal now. It's called insights.ade.arkansas.gov. That's the portal that we are highlighting the county level data, because one of the things that we did a couple of years back on MySchoolInfo, we focused on co-op level data, which is good from education standpoint of view, because the districts are part of co-ops, but we miss the county pieces. So Insights actually taps into that area where it looks at the data at county level, because there are so many people or stakeholders who are interested at county level data.
Yeah, excellent point. All right, great discussion. Thank you, everyone. One quick topic that I want to address, and be able to hand it back to Josh after that. When we first created our state data asset inventory, we did not have a robust process to classify our data. At that time, we just marked our data sets as sensitive or not sensitive, and we said, is it open data or is it closed data? However, the governance committee has realized that we need a more robust and clearly defined data classification process. So our cybersecurity office and our privacy office has been working on a data classification process, which helps us identify and classify data based on its sensitivity and the criticality. And that is important so that then we can define how to best safeguard that data as we host it, whether on the state data system, data center, or anywhere. So I've shared that process that has been collaboratively developed across different agencies and different groups to the State Data Governance Committee, and have gotten some feedback on it. The policy is now being reviewed by leadership just now. And if there is any additional feedback anyone has on it, this is the time to please send that back, because we would really like to go ahead and formalize that standard. And that would be useful as we go ahead and start identifying further data sets that might find its way back into the open data portal. Anything that is, anything more than publicly allowed will not make its way into the open data portal, of course. So it's very critical that we identify this criticality and the sensitivity of data at this time.
To what extent can aggregates that are based on sensitive data be incorporated into the open data portal?
Nathan, I think that's something that we will have to discuss internally as we create governance rules and workflows around what makes its way up. Obviously, any kind of any level of non-public data should not make its way into the open data portal. Only aggregated, de-identified data sets would make its way through. The purpose of the classification is more to be done at the time of doing your asset inventory, so that you can say, okay, if it's already highly sensitive data, it's not going to be a candidate to go up in an open data portal. It has to be handled with much more precaution, much more care to be able to stand by the compliance and the security guidelines. So hopefully that addresses your question.
Following on with that, Aditya, some of the projects that Robert talked briefly about, the new projects that look at adult ed and connection to workforce, a lot of those projects envision creating some sort of a dashboard for just visualizing and displaying data. I anticipate that those data and dashboards will be linked on the open data portal. So I think the answer to your question, Nathan, is to the extent possible, and of course this will be governed by the individual data sharing agreements, we would like to put aggregated data and data products on that data portal as well. So it's not just going to be open data. I anticipate there will be links to products that will help users better understand the data that they're looking at. And we've already got some projects that will be great candidates for that in the pipeline.
Yeah.
So Josh, this is Arijit from Department of Education. I had a question. Sometime back, we had some good demos by opendata.gov. I think it was called Open Checkbook for financial data. So is the CD office considering for the financial piece to kind of procure that for the state
I
level?
want one of those open checkbooks.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, my thought is because on the financial side, we haven't done much, because my understanding is that they already have done several pieces which could be reused. Has there been any consideration or discussion about procurement of that at the state level?
Yeah, and I'll let Adita answer that question. I mean, yes, we've considered it. We've talked about what types of data to go with first, but I'm sure Adita can provide some more depth and color to that.
Yes. So Josh and Arijit and others, the basic prototype that is still under discussion, and I welcomed any feedback to this. We started off with some of the COVID-19 specific information because that was the need of the hour. So hospitalization numbers, number of cases, and how they are spread geographically across the state was the number one thing. And then we talked to Commerce because Commerce was interested in showing their unemployment and the PUA numbers, the trends for that. So I know I'm looking to see if there's anybody on Commerce on the line here other than Nathan, maybe Carter. So I know some of them in the Commerce Department are working together to get us some of those data sets to see how we can visualize those to show the impact from COVID-19. Those have been our basic data sets in the picture just now. Some financial information can definitely be considered at this point. Again, this is only prototype right now. So if there is a specific financial piece that somebody has available that you want to incorporate in the prototype, we'll be happy to include it right now. All we need is the data set. So if it is not sensitive data that you're able to share, go ahead and please connect me to it and we'll see what we can do and include that in the prototype. As far as the open checkbook, Josh, you may be more familiar with that, it sounds like, but the product that we're looking at just now has a separate financial module by itself. That is not part of my current considerations. But again, this solution is for the stage. So whatever all of us need is what we need to move towards.
Yeah, it's my understanding that 20 plus states are using that, I mean, I'm kind of curious about the analysis that you guys have done. I was thinking that Open Checkbook should have come as one of the top ones because I know New York, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, Mississippi, these are the 5 I know. But the number of people who are using, number of states who are using is close to 20. That's what I hear. Doing my research.
So Arijit, may I reach out to you offline and gather a little bit more information and understand if Open Checkbook is only for financials, or would it also cover the different areas of, whether it's labor and licensing, whether it's education, or what all can it cover? So let me get with you offline on that and see how it kind of compares to the other tools that we've looked at.
Yeah, sounds good. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is all I had on the governance update. So Josh, I will pass that back to you.
Fantastic. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is an update from the Data Sharing and Data-Driven Decision-Making Task Force subcommittee of the ALC. And Senator English, I believe you're on. I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you very much. This has been very, very enlightening. It's a very good discussion. I'm sorry all legislators can't hear this because we've talked about all of this for so long, and I see some real movement, which is exciting to me. Josh, you gave our committee an update the other day on some of the things we've talked about, you all have talked about here. And we will be putting some recommendations together, but a lot of the things are, I'm sure, just like having all of the agencies under a universal agreement is really critically important. You just can't have 6 or 7 agencies that aren't part of this whole discussion, because everybody's information is important. So I think we will have some recommendations ready by for our report in December. But I really appreciate all that you all are doing. I just wish we had a better way of informing legislators, because I think you all are doing some really great things that folks need to know about. And I'm just not sure how we do that. But any suggestions you have will be accepted. But thank you very much.
That
Fantastic.
invitation to make suggestions. I think there's just be more reports and stuff, more analysis systematically done, so that anyway, yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities, I think, for that. But a lot of times to just have the citizens do it on their own is asking too much. You need experts to go in there and be figuring out what the value is in the data and making that public so that they know what to follow.
Well, Emma, would that be part of the analytics? Is having some of the if I'm understanding, having teams of folks inside of agencies in addition to their own data officer, which I don't think we have right now, but then those folks being able to do some of the analytics that will help bring some of this information together, because there's a lot of information out there. All of it isn't useful.
Yep. More analytics, more analysts talking to each other, collaborating on products. Exactly.
Well, and this gets to my lead in as well. I think it's very important not just to have the capacity to link data and create a strong integrated data set, to have analytic capacity. Those are necessary components, but unless you have a process for routinely trying to identify priority areas with agency leaders, with the legislature, with the executive, and then continuously improve against those, the process is always going to be pretty ad hoc, and you'll just look at whatever's making the most noise at the time, or whatever somebody is interested in. So we want to create a more routine process for talking about what our priorities are, where those problem areas are that we want to make progress on over 1, 2, 3, 5-year period, and actually have some concerted effort against those that will include some analytics capacity within agencies, will include some enterprise level analytics capacity, but also will require us to reach out to subject matter expertise that exists in the state that we're not tapping into fully yet in our university system. So, hopefully over the next 1 or 2 year period, we can build not only that internal analytics capacity, but that process and the muscle for identifying priorities and then working on them over time to make significant progress, instead of just having a one-off data product here, another data product there, having concerted effort over a longer period of time against high priority areas. All right, thank you, Senator English, for that update. That is our last agenda item. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to say against our agenda for today, or any questions?
Josh, I got something.
Fantastic. Corey?
So you talked about we're moving kind of into the execution phase. How are y'all looking at funding and getting these things off the ground? If we look, is there a possibility that the CARES Act money, that if there's anything left, could be used for something like this?
That's a great question. We are pursuing all avenues for funding. The governor had a task force that looked at data investments around CARES Act funding. My understanding is that the CARES Act money has all been allocated. We are also, as Robert mentioned, pursuing other federal funding opportunities for the SLDS and for data products related to the connection between education and workforce. We're optimistic that work will move forward. However, those funding opportunities last for 2 years. And so if we're going to sustain this, we'll absolutely need additional funding to make it happen. we hope to stand up a small analytics team kind of at an enterprise level inside TSS that will take funding to maintain. So that's kind of a roundabout way to say we're pursuing all funding opportunities. We have a line on a few right now that we think will get us started. But for the effort to be sustainable, we're going to need additional funding to keep it going. On that kind of long-term funding, we're looking at kind of a three-legged stool. One is continuing to pursue grant opportunities at the federal level and otherwise. Two would be getting some chargeback to agencies who have important products that they want produced or projects that they want tackled. So we would do that, of course, for a fee. And then three is potentially some general fund or other revenue to support the effort, maintain kind of a small internal capacity over time. We wouldn't want anything that was funded by general revenue to get too large so that it became unwieldy and unsustainable. So we would want that to be kind of minimum operating capacity and then to fund the rest of the operation on based on the value that we could produce for state agencies. All right. Any other questions, comments?
Josh, this is Jessica. Just a quick comment. As of course, you know, this being my last data transparency meeting, I want to thank everyone. You know, as I sit here and I hear all the updates and all the incredible work that you've done. I know we started, was it 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. It's taken, you know, it's taken a while, but you know, the improvement has been tremendous. We all understand, you know, the power of data to transform government. We're getting closer and closer. The work, and I want to commend Robert and Adita for the tremendous work. They stood up from the very beginning, and they've been going at it constantly and doing dual work, because this is just part of their job, and they have another job role here at DIS. And to watch them grow, to watch them develop as leaders, and really being committed to the mission of creating that data-driven culture, we're getting very close. I'll say we're very close. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to Adit and Robert. Josh, you're doing an incredible job. We're happy that you join us as a CDO. And to the Data Transparency panel, thank you for your support. I mean, it's all about collaboration. I think we all know what you know, the goal, and it's all about working together and breaking down those silos and bringing those data sharing agreements together. It's for the benefit of our citizens, ultimately. It's not just for the benefit of one agency, but ultimately the beneficiaries here are the citizens. Every decision that we make, every program, every mission, it's driven by data. And to Senator English, thank you so much for being an incredible supporter of this effort, and always, you know, being involved and asking the right questions and just helping out this task force. I'm very grateful for everyone, and I wish you guys the best. And of course, I'm gonna, you know, keep watching you guys, because you guys are doing a tremendous job. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And your early buy-in to this effort and allocation of Robert and Adita to the effort, and allowing them to spend so much time and energy standing this up over a prolonged period has really laid an excellent foundation for the state. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for this effort. It's really tremendous, and I hope that you will follow with pride the progress that we make over the coming couple of years.
Most definitely, sure will.
Fantastic. All right, anybody else have anything for this meeting? Great. Well, with that, thank you everybody for spending an hour with us today, and please reach out if you have any questions or projects that you would like us to focus on. We're excited about this effort. Hope you are too, and hope to pick up some momentum here over the coming months. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.